it is now 6:30 on Monday, April 10th. This is the beginning of Norton Conservation Commission meeting, a regularly scheduled meeting. And as has been required with prior meetings conducted over Zoom, we need to read the preamble, which relates to suspension of certain requirements of the open meeting law. So Dan, if you would go ahead and read that, that would be great.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. So we're going to make a minor correction. You have an old copy of this preamble, but
I'm afraid I do.
Yeah, and so I'm going to just read the first line since it will give the public information about the continuing option for Zoom meetings, which reads, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025. So with that update tonight, we have thus far 4 members of the commission, myself, Julian Kadish, chair. Lisa Carosa is unfortunately, at least at this time, unable to join us. We have Dan Pearson, Mark Fernandez, Ron O'Reilly, and unfortunately, Tom Vest is unable to join. And we have, unfortunately, a vacancy on the commission as well. And we have John Thomas here, our director. And I think we're ready to move to the first public hearing, which is file number 250-1125. It's a notice of intent concerning 237 Mansfield Avenue concerning some work being done at our kayak access on Mansfield Avenue. So do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, I'm here. Ryan McCoy with Collins Engineers.
Okay, if you could maybe, I don't know if you have a plan to share, but I think John's going to.
Ryan or Allie, you both have screen sharing capabilities, so either one of you can share your screen.
Great, awesome. Yeah, I'll share my screen now. Hope you guys can all see that presentation there.
We can.
All right, great.
Yes.
All right, so little introduction. My name is Ryan McCoy. I'm with Collins Engineers. We're representing the Mass Department of Fish and Game Office of Fishing and Boating Access. They're working collaboratively with the town of Norton to improve the existing kayak launch ramp at 237 Mansfield Ave. So the proposed scope of work includes reconstruction of the existing kayak launch, regrading of the existing gravel driveway that's there, and then construction of a bituminous staging area just upland of the existing ramp there. So I'll run through this presentation. I have a few pictures here to demonstrate the existing conditions. The first one you see on the left-hand side is the existing gravel kayak launch that's there now. That's looking out towards the res. And on the right-hand side is backing out farther from the res, again, looking east. You see the south side of the proposed staging area and the ramp there. There's an existing stone fireplace that's behind that storage container that you can see there on the right-hand side, which should be removed at this point. And again, this third picture on the left-hand side is that north side, that same area. Right now, the existing site is that existing soil. There's some mulch there. Hasn't really been improved to provide really good access. And then you can see that on the right-hand side. You can see the mulch a little bit better there. And you can see the dense tree growth that we have with the spring growth there. The picture on the left-hand side just shows the existing conditions of that the bottom of the ramp that's there now. It's pretty muddy, pretty sandy down there right now. And then the right-hand side is that existing gravel driveway looking out towards Mansfield Ave that we're proposing to regrade. So just looking at the proposed conditions that we're looking to achieve here, starting on the left-hand side of that plan, we are regrading that gravel driveway, coming back and providing access to the rear of the existing structure that's there now. Looks like a split level residential structure. And then just behind that building there, it'll transition to the bituminous paving as you enter that staging area. Staging area provides access for about 12 vehicles, including a handicap spot closest to the ramp. And then again, farther to the right, restoring that gravel kayak launch right down to the water's edge. Zooming in on the more critical part of the work is that staging area, construction of that staging area, reconstruction of the boat ramp that you can see here. So not really changing the grading too much, really just kind of looking to come in, regrade the site that's there and improve it with that bituminous paving. We've provided riprap or grass swales on the north side and the south side to try and collect some of the runoff that will be generated from the impervious area. And then again, throw in a couple traffic bollards to make sure that we are providing really just car top access, which is the goal here for this project for the canoes and kayaks here. The proposed project includes impacts to the bank for the ramp restoration, as well as the bordering land subject to flooding. You can see we've got here the FEMA 100-year flood elevation, and then the 100-foot buffer zone comes about a third of the way up our staging area here. So that'll open up to questions. If you guys have any questions, comments, happy to answer anything you have.
Yeah, just for clarification, it should be noted that the Wetland Protection Act actually has jurisdiction only to a small portion of this. I don't know if you can go back to your prior plan, but it's just within the 100-foot buffer zone, and pretty much, so that cuts through the middle of the parking area. And pretty much everything else is not within our jurisdiction. But so any questions from members of the commission? And this seems to be a fairly straightforward project, and it will definitely stabilize the area against any kind of future erosion or other degradation of the access point. So, John, do you have any comments about this?
So there's two things. DP had some comments, I believe. I don't know, Ryan or Allie, if you want to answer that to kind of DP's comments. And then Megan informed me that the legal notice for this project has not been paid yet. So unfortunately, we can't close it until that's paid. I guess that's what she was telling me today.
Yeah, we had Colin from our office drove up there this afternoon. He should have dropped off a check just before you closed. So
so if that's the case, then if the commission's comfortable with closing this evening, then we should be all set to potentially close. The stormwater swales, from my understanding, appear to be good based on the information that I looked at. I don't know if the commission wanted to look into a peer review for this project, but from what I looked at, it seemed pretty sufficient because it's going to shed to each swale. But then also, you know, some minor work within the FEMA flood zone. I don't think it's going to exceed the threshold of 5,000 square feet. Is that correct, Ryan or Ally?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But you're not changing the elevations within that flood zone, is that
No,
correct?
they're going to be the elevation should be matched, but we should find that in the as-built when it's done for this project. So confirm that the project matches the elevations, correct?
All right.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of change just to make sure that it does drain properly.
Right.
But other than that, we're just trying to restore the existing conditions more or less, but existing elevations.
All right. So I personally feel comfortable that this is very straightforward and comfortable with closing tonight. I really don't think it meets the threshold for peer review unless other people have concerns. So
I guess it's opening it up to the public would be next.
Oh, yes. So any questions from anyone? I see a computer named Liz Lennon. The gentleman has his hand up. If you want to just identify yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, my name is Dave Lennon. I live at 90 Maple Street, Norton. I'm also the owner operator of Norton Kayak Company. We've been running a kayak tour business on the property for 18 seasons, licensed by the Conservation Commission, and a lease for the property for this upcoming season through October 2023. Just looking at the layout, it doesn't leave much or any room to continue to accommodate the business use that we have that we've built over 18 years. And just didn't know if the plans could be shifted a little bit to still, you know, allow for the use of the property to provide the programs that we do, you know, to the Norton Rec and the Wounded Warrior Project and local colleges and our kayak camp. We do understand that, you know, we do need more access to the reservoir. There's no one that I think understands that and gets that more than I do. On a daily basis, we see the different areas that are being used and the people coming out. And one of the things that this parking lot would do would potentially push all our gear up into the contractor staging area. And if we were continue to be able to use the property, we would have to, you know, carry the gear down the parking lot, which definitely is not ideal. I don't know if the state and the engineers were aware. I mean, they must have by some of the photos and stuff of the trailer and the gear. When they went into the conceptual design of this, if, you know, it was taken into consideration that, you know, we've used the property in good faith for 18 years and haven't had any issues, and the business is entrenched in the community with the programs we do and the exposure to, you know, kids at our kayak camp and the public, and to a lot of people who don't have kayaks. So if this plan was to go forward and there wasn't room for us, you know, I can understand you're adding 12 spaces for access, but it's also denying access to people who don't have kayaks, canoes, car top, or even vehicles. You know, we do have clients and customers we pick up that come in from Boston over at the train station and shuttle them over, or they take an Uber and stuff. So I know the intent is to increase the access and all that. You know, but if this puts us out of business, then, you know, that cuts the access to a lot of diverse groups that we run our programs for. So,
Well, Mr. Lennon, may I ask a question?
sure.
So, I don't think there's any intent to cut your business out of.
No, I don't either.
But let me ask you, what do you do now with the facility as it's laid out currently?
Well, do you see where the current exposed block fireplaces?
Yeah.
That's just to the left of that is an 8x20 storage unit, and that was shown in some of the pictures that Mr. McCoy had shown. If you can go back, yes.
Yeah.
So the trailer is 8x20. It takes up 160 square feet. Overall program space in, with a picnic table and just an area to spread gear out, we wouldn't need much more than, 1,400 square feet, which would be about the, same size as about 9 of those 8x20 storage units, in any kind of configuration. What we were hoping is that there would still be, access for us, especially considering that for the first time in 18 years, we've been allowed to store our gear over the winter. We took that as a sign from the select board that, long term, that this was a viable site for us. We invested in the container and a lot more gear, and based on the information and the new lease agreement that we would hope to continue to provide programs from this location. There aren't too many other suitable spots that are zoned business-wise that.
All right. Well, let me ask you. As I said before, I don't think there's any intent to make it more difficult for you to continue your business. But are you saying that this parking area in that location is going to be prohibitive for your operation?
Yeah, well, it would have to cause us to potentially move our gear to that contractor staging area behind the house, to the left of the parking.
Okay.
And with the swales on each side, it wasn't like we could go down the edge. We would have to carry the gear through the parking area. Our customers would have to come down through the parking area.
So what you're saying is none of your kayaks have a roller to roll them along?
Well, typically with the conditions, the Mr. McCoy had said there wasn't many upgrades recently. 2 years ago, the town did put down fresh mulch on the property and did some improvements. And, bringing the gear over that pea-sized gravel and over the mulch is, doesn't wear the boats at all. We've had some kayaks now that we've had for 18 years and, it doesn't wear. To have to shuttle a bunch of kayaks over pavement with a dolly or kayak cart, is definitely going to be detrimental. And also with, our summer program that we run in the morning with the kids coming, having, a lot of cars pulling in and out down back as we're, bringing customers from a potential staging area that's closer to the house, is concerning. And it will definitely, it's going to be a lot more work moving that unit another 100 feet closer to the house. And,
what would be your proposed solution?
I didn't know if that lot could be shifted to one side or the other. I didn't know if you could have a proposed drop-off area, because there is plenty of parking up front where you had a drop-off area somewhere closer to the water with a turnaround, that area definitely gets wet, and numerous people get stuck trying to back in and out of that mulchy area. There's been many times I've had to get a tow truck to pull people out and stuff. But I'm not a wetlands expert, so I don't know what the laws and the requirements are within the buffer zone. I know in town we do have over by the dam a gravel lot. I didn't know if the parking lot could be slid a little bit over towards the Alberto's property line, or just redesigned a little bit to allow us to be able to bring gear on, say, a mulch or pea stone or gravel path, as opposed to, having to go over the swale or on the pavement, more of a direct natural path as opposed to the pavement that we would have to go over.
All right. And you say a dolly because of concerns of abrading your kayaks is just not feasible?
Well, I mean, we're
Going
going
over the pavement?
We're going potentially, over 200 feet over the pavement. And then when we have programs with kids and stuff on our summer program in the mornings, we're bringing those kids through a parking lot with no path, so to speak, other than the parking lot to get to the water. So, if there was a way, from the upper area that we could access the launch without jumping the swale or going through the parking lot, it would be much safer for our clients, and it would be easier to get the gear from the water's edge. Right now we're located just out of the buffer zone. We're about 110 feet.
Yeah.
This would propose us up further and having to traverse either the swale or the parking lot to access the water.
All right. Well, bear in mind, as I mentioned earlier, the commission itself has jurisdiction only over a small portion of this overall project, and what you're referring to is actually outside our jurisdiction. I don't know if we can put that plan back up and
Well, you could create a turnaround down closer to the water's edge and improve the parking up front. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not skilled in the art of, or the science and the laws of.
All right.
Of
Well,
wetlands.
yeah, I don't know if we can resolve this, because what you're referring to is outside our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And I just want to address the fact that another member of the audience had their hand up, and I don't know if they still want to ask a question. Denise Luciano, you had transiently had your hand up. I don't know if you want to actually ask your question or not. And if not, Dan, you have.
Yes. I am sort of in the same boat as, no pun intended, Dave Lennon, in that I don't know about these, I'm not an expert in parking matters either, but if you look at the parking lot that's now up on the screen, what about going to the bottom of that and sort of putting, I don't know, a dashed intermittent yellow lines and suggesting that that's where the people can walk, and using that as a path, but also, it's still keeping it parking? Is that, anyway, just a suggestion. I don't know how good a suggestion, but.
Well, as I understand it, the objection is that it's now going to be a hard macadam surface, which is not kind to the bottom of kayaks. So I don't know if there's an option for putting a mulch path around the parking lot, or how to deal with that. But as I said, our jurisdiction is only in that portion of the parking lot just adjacent to the reservoir. John, do you have any comments about this issue, or?
Yeah, I've spoken to the town manager today. I also need to talk to the fire chief and see if we can utilize a portion of the existing or proposed pavement to facilitate Mr. Lennon's request for his enterprise. So I have that. The chief was busy today, so he wasn't able to sit down and discuss this, but it's definitely something that I plan on doing to continue our agreement with Mr. Lennon. And since he's been pursuing this endeavor for, what was it, 18 years, David? Is that what you said, 18?
Yes. Yeah, we're heading into our 19th season this year.
Yeah, so we'd like to continue this joint venture that we have with Mr. Lennon's Norton Kayak Company. And as such, we're going to be looking at potentially ways around to make this more amenable to his request. And, if there's a need for a minor modification to this plan, we can definitely pursue that to accommodate Mr. Lennon and his enterprise.
Now, just one comment, would it be possible to switch that contractor area space down lower and shift the whole parking lot to the left of where it is now, further, maybe the edge of it may be in the buffer zone, and create some open space down by the water's edge, currently where I believe space maybe 10, 11 and the handicap parking.
Yeah, well, let me just comment. The contractors area, I think, is illustrated only as an area for the actual installation of these changes. And then I'm assuming the intention was to allow it to go back to normal vegetation. I mean, did I get that right, Ryan?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So that's really not a permanent installation there. And so,
well, I guess my comment is if the parking lot was shifted a little further away from further back from the water, you have that, seems like I'm trying to look at like 40 something feet width there. That way it would allow some space down.
So if you do that, you're just going to extend the access to the water with that gravel path. That's the only interference that you're going to run into, if that's what you're asking. If you shift this whole parking lot to the left, you're just going to extend that gravel to the water. So, I just don't know if that's going to be amenable for anyone that's wanting to unload their kayak and have to walk an extra, what is that, 40, 50 feet to get to the water's edge?
Yeah, almost 50.
I think the intent from what they were proposing was for it to be a short distance to, prevent any sort of serious issues when you're taking a kayak from the parking lot to the edge of the water.
Yeah.
well, all right.
Under this type of plan, it would be very difficult for us to operate because, we wouldn't even know where we could place gear. There's a lot of unknowns for us. And I know you guys only deal with what's within the buffer zone. So.
And I think, from our design perspective, I think we'll, if the town wants you guys to stay, I imagine the state's not coming in and trying to kick you guys out either. So, working together, like John said, if we need to do a minor mod to this plan, but something that we can all work together on to, kind of tweak some area, whether it is that contractor staging area, which right now is mulch, and so we're going to restore it back to that kind of mulched or lightly vegetated area. There is other ways. It just involves more tree clearing and kind of opening up some more space right now. But certainly open to those
Even if
discussions.
we were off to the north or the south of the parking lot, the drainage swales would, we would have to traverse them to access, even if we were able to do storage on either side of the parking area to the north or the south of it. So,
Well, I mean, technically there is space, and I don't even know if this is going to be a viable possibility, but there's space between the 25-foot line and the parking lot where something could be potentially installed there. So, but I think that would have to be reviewed certainly by John and the other people involved. So considering these concerns, would it be possible to continue this? I mean, is this something that's got an urgent timeline that we can continue this and try to work these issues out?
I mean, I think we could vote to close this and then they could come in with a minor modification, because what they're proposing, I think the area that David has alluded to is not significant enough to really warrant the need for a refiling. I think we can just put it through an amended order of conditions if need be.
All right. Well, that sounds fine to me.
So I can work with Mr. Lennon, and we can work on looking out there in the field physically at some areas that may be prudent for this, this area that he's looking to put the trailer in his enterprise.
Yeah.
So David, if you're comfortable with that, you and me can work out an area.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So again, any final questions either from the commission or the audience? And if not, we can consider a motion to close.
Hi, this is Allie
Go
Gilmore with
move.
Collins. I just wanted to jump in and say, John, I know earlier you had asked about the DEP comment that we had received.
Yes.
I don't think we ever answered that. So they had asked if there was going to be any temporary impacts to the land under water bodies. And there's not. All of our work is pretty much upland of the edge of water. So there won't be anything going on underneath the reservoir.
Right. I think the turbidity curtain that you put in there freaked them out. So I think that's why they had questions.
Okay. Yep. Just kind of precautionary.
All right. Any other comments, questions? And if not, we can consider a motion to close.
So moved.
We have a motion to close by Ron and seconded by Dan for file number 250-1125. And as is required for remote meetings, we need to do a voice vote starting with Mark and Dan.
Aye. Aye.
And Ron?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. So we should have an order of conditions next time. And then it sounds like John, along with the contractors and Mr. Lennon, will work out the concerns about ideal access for Mr. Lennon's company.
Thank you,
David,
everyone.
why don't we meet up this week and we can talk about it. I'll bring a cloth tape and we can kind of measure out some areas out there. Okay.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming
everyone.
in.
All right, our next item on the agenda is a notice of intent. It does not yet have a full file number unless it's come in recently for 192 Taunton Avenue. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, this is Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting.
All right, so why don't you tell us what the project is about?
So I was actually asked by the applicant to request a continuance for tonight to allow us more time to get a new submittal and revised plans out to you guys.
Okay, but I think we need to clarify exactly what the hearing is about, because it took me a kind of a double take, because it looks like the project involves installation of 4 residences. Is that correct?
I do not know.
Okay,
because-
well, from the
yeah.
plans I received, it involves 4 residences, but what is clear on the plans is, again, our jurisdiction appears to extend only over a small portion of the whole activity. And the buffer zone goes through the middle of 1 residence, and then I believe our jurisdiction is restricted to utilities access, unless John has other comments about that.
Yeah, there's 2 lots that are going to be subject to this permit application, and I went out there to review the wetlands and identified some other resource areas that were omitted from the plans. So I've asked the applicant to contact the representative, which is Goddard Consultant, to go out there and reconfirm the resource areas. Obviously, this is a 4-lot subdivision, so the project itself is going to require stormwater review, and with that, they need to account for where the location of those stormwater features are in proximity to the resource areas. So they're going to be coming in again, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, with a new rendition of plans for us.
All right. So I guess we can ask if there are any preliminary questions, and if not, we can go on to now. Your request is to continue until the next meeting, or
yes. Yep,
Okay.
that should be enough time. Yep.
So we have, our next meeting is the 24th of April. So if there are no further questions, we can go ahead and entertain a motion for continuation of this hearing till the 24th of April.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Ron and seconded by Dan, and again, a roll call vote beginning with Ron and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. This hearing, which yet does not have a file number, is continued until April 24th. So thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then on my agenda, the next 3 hearings are also requesting continuation. So the next item is DP file number 250-1123, a notice of intent for 13 Mean Street, requested a continuation until 4/24.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Dan and seconded by Ron for continuation of this hearing until April 24th. So roll call vote starting with Ron and Dan.
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is file number DEP 250-1113, notice of intent 0 East Hodges Street, also requesting a continuation until April 24th.
So moved.
So I just want to let everybody know that at the last meeting, the applicant, Scott Goddard, said that they would have information for this meeting, and they do not. So I positioned to the board whether to grant this continuance, because they said that they would have information for us, and they do not, and they're requesting a continuance. This would be the 4th continuance.
Well, in the past, we've had some really just multiple requests. So I think it would be a little harsh to deny this based on another request for continuation.
Although this, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. This is 1113. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, my agenda says that it's, oh, wait a minute. Why does it say continued from 9/26/2022? Oh,
Oh, no, it
from
has had,
9/26/2022 for 12 meetings.
yeah, but we've had, I mean, they presented information and a major revision of the plan during that process, when their original plan was kind of way out there in the swamp. So
I guess my question to the commission is, though, if an applicant tells us they're going to have something and they don't have it at the next meeting, is the commission and the board feel that it's prudent to give them? Because it's not by right. It's basically by, a courtesy. So to give a continuance. So does the board feel that, I guess, do they need a deadline? Is there a certain, threshold that we should instill here? Because, I don't want to have another project that goes on for a year and a half, because the soils are not right.
well, we have previously discussed how non-ideal this site is. You're right. But at the same time, we've generally operated on a flexible courtesy level of willing to hear, willing to have applicants present their information when they can get it, because it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, is that really what the Wetland Protection Act says? Is that once you're in the process, you have to meet a rigid timetable, or
Well,
not?
there's the burden of proof criteria for you to prove that your project's viable and feasible. And I guess my question is that if they're telling us the soils aren't right and they said they're going to have more information to us, I mean, I just don't want them to, basically keep prolonging this project and it's never going to come into fruition for them, because, that's the case here that I'm thinking of, is that, I just want to make sure that they're working on it and they're bringing that information for the commission.
Well, what happens if we do not continue? Can they?
Well, we can
file
ask
again?
them to either withdraw their application because they have not provided the information for the commission to make a justified decision, or the commission can choose to issue and close the meeting and just say that they failed to provide the information they promised to us at the last meeting. Or we can request that we can, let them go through the process and grant them that continuance. It's up to the commission on how they feel.
Well, John, do we have any mechanism by which we might give them either encouragement or a slap on the wrist, or, some sort of stimulus?
I mean, if you want to instill, I would say for Mr. Maslanka is that if we grant this continuance, then they have to basically provide us something at the next meeting. Otherwise, we're going to just basically say that, we need information to be able to make or some sort of update to provide, so that way we can see that there's progress being made. If there's no progress being made, they should either withdraw their application, or the other option is that the commission has is to issue, is to close the meeting. And since there's not enough information to say that the project's feasible or viable, then it would be, a decision.
But what you have said previously in this discussion is you feel the soils are inappropriate for that the soils are basically wetland soils throughout the site. Is that correct or not?
I don't think the soils are feasible or viable to support this project, but the applicant needs to provide evidence and information that they are. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
But I guess, isn't that going to be the case even if they present today versus next week, a month from now? I do think there needs to be a cutoff there was one project we had that going on for like 18 months or something. At that point, who remembers the finer details of the presentations that were already had? And yes, they promised something and they're not meeting that promise. I don't know the reason for that. But ultimately, I think the same questions are going to be that we would have today for them are going to be there next week or 2 weeks from now if they are back in front of us. And they're still going to be held to the same scrutiny about the questions around soils and all that. To me, this project has changed so much; it's almost like a new project every time it comes before us. So, does it? I guess what's the downside in continuing it on, even if there's no update at this point? Is there any administrative overhead or any other than the agenda and all that? Is there anything else that continuing it on would sort of add to a workload for you?
I mean, there's no downside to it, but it's just time and effort that's spent by volunteers and all the public that may be attending this meeting for this. And my biggest question, and think for things like this is, if you can't support a project and provide the information, then you shouldn't be in front of the commission. And that's what I'm saying. And if you're not proposing or have the information to back up your findings, don't have the burden of proof information to support a project, then it's not a viable project in my mind.
All right. But at the same time, I think we have to allow the applicant to present their material when they can get. I mean, we don't know what other kind of pressures the applicant is under, and I think we have to be sensitive to that. And the representative of the applicant has a question, so I think we need to address that. So
can I just squeeze in quickly before that? We also have to take into account that our conservation director is under all kinds of pressure. So anyway, okay, sorry.
Well,
Mitch,
I understand that, but we're a body that first serves the town of Norton, but we also have a regulatory obligation to the applicants, even when they are not residents of the town of Norton. So, Mitch, you have your hand up. Why don't you ask your question or make a comment?
So yeah, I didn't want to chime in without, putting my hand up. So I did send in a revised plan today. We weren't able to get it to you guys by the deadline last Thursday. Just, going over things with the client and engineer and making sure we have everything the way we want it. Because we've had significant site plan revisions where we've significantly reduced the scope of the work. So we've just had to work with the client and engineer to make sure we get a project that's going to be, that's still going to work for them. So I'd be happy to, give a little presentation if you guys want on the new stuff, but I know.
I think that would be beneficial, Mitch, and I've made you a co-host for this procedure just as well. So if you could share your screen, that would be great.
I have one more comment before you start, but if the soils just aren't right, are we then just putting off for another time to find out that the soils will preclude this project from happening? I mean,
but at the same time, the applicant has the right to present the information that they have. So
sure,
I don't think we can decide to shut them down.
Okay.
No, it's
right,
not. The applicant, Mitch, from Goddard Consulting, has said that he has a plan to show the commission. So that is considered new information. So I think that would mean that if they have new information to show us, that they're working to a common goal to facilitate this project, then, for instance, we need to see it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's allow Mitch to
see it. Yep.
Okay, coming up here. Okay, can you guys see the screen here?
We can.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, just to give you updates, when this project started, we had, a long driveway, wetlands crossings, stream crossings, so that they could build over here. So it's we've had to significantly reduce the project scope to just up at towards the front of the lot. And we did test pits over in this area for our leaching field, and that was approved by Board of Health, or we had the inspection done with the Board of Health present. So those are valid test pits. So we put the leaching field there where we know the soils are good. Over here, we put the house. We do have a storm tech system managing some of the storm water from the proposed dwelling. And we still have the barn over here at the front of the street. And we've removed the pool. So there's no pool. That was a big revision. And we're keeping disturbance underneath 1 acre in size, so we won't have to do the stormwater bylaw requirements. And then to manage some of the water over towards the abutting 123 East Hodges Street, we're proposing a swale just so that property doesn't receive any runoff from our site. I know that was a concern with the abutter last time, so we just wanted to make sure we got a swale in there to direct water, back into our site and not onto his site. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of the new plan, and yeah.
All right. Well, I think we need to allow John to review it in detail. And does anyone have questions concerning this at the time with its limited information being presented? If not, I think we need to honor the applicant's request for a continuation until March 24th.
So moved.
Sorry, can I just ask one quick question with the?
Sure.
Is there an area identified for future forgive me, I'm blanking on the term, but when the septic system has to be replaced in the future, where would
a reserve area, right?
Where
yes, there's so within here, I'll share my screen one more time here. Okay, can you see it?
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
So we've got reserve and primaries. So we've got 2 reserve trenches and 2 primary trenches.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. So we had a motion, I believe, by Dan to
Yes.
Continue this until the 24th of April. And so we need a second to proceed.
Second.
We have a second from Ron. So roll call vote, starting with Ron and Dan.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So I guess Mitch will be talking to you or whoever the representative is in more detail on the 24th of April.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone.
You bet.
Thank you.
And then we also have for 301 South Worcester Street, file number 250-1124. That project representative has requested a continuation until April 24th.
So before we start the motion, I'd like to inform the commission that I issued a violation to the representative and the landowner. They were doing exploratory testing out there in the riverfront area. So just so we're all aware, riverfront area is considered a resource area, and it's not listed as one of those areas where they can have exemptions. So they need to notify the board or receive a permit, and they have failed to do so. So in light of that, I issued them a violation for that, and that's why they're here this evening to discuss the work that they've done.
Okay. So of those attending, who would like to discuss that?
So this is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. I was one of the gentlemen on site during the soil testing for the testing that was done to comply with your stormwater bylaw. So just to walk through what we did, our goal on accessing the site here was to make sure that we used access paths and old cart paths that were already in existence. So we came off of John Scott Boulevard, which John has a sketch of this. We came off John Scott Boulevard to do a test bed off that street. We used an old cart path crossing, so we didn't cross any wetlands. Crossed that into the upland area, which is in the buffer zone, and getting to the outside of the buffer zone in an area where we've done Board of Health testing. We went in, we did testing right near the Board of Health test pits, just outside those areas where we could do stormwater management. And we used most of the areas that were in existing access points. The one access point that did go through the riverfront area is an old access cart path road that was there. And so we didn't take down any new vegetation to use that access point to cross down into towards Dean Street. And we did that deliberately because we knew we didn't want to disturb any more vegetation than we have to. That's always my goal when I do soil testing is, can we do test bits where we minimize disturbance of vegetation, because preserving vegetation is important to me until it's approved to be disturbed. So that was the route that we used. So we did go down into the corner of Dean Street there, down near that isolated wetland. We're trying to recall, if you can zoom in on that area, John, that might be helpful for everybody's sake. But I believe that last test bit was just might have been on the fringe of the riverfront area. But I think it was, I think again, our intention was to avoid going in there wherever possible and to do accesses through areas that have already been accessed. So you can see that last test bit is done outside the riverfront area itself. So although we accessed through the riverfront area, we were accessing it through old routes that were previously disturbed. And again, these were just exploratory test bits to comply with your stormwater bylaw. So at this point, we don't plan to bring other equipment on site to do testing. And again, I apologize, John, if we probably should have let you know that we would be driving through the riverfront area, even though we were using an old access path to do exploratory testing, again, as required under your bylaw for the stormwater design.
It's not just stormwater either. I mean, this is in an ACEC. You're in an area which is very significant wildlife habitat. It is vernal pool season. There's 2 potential vernal pools on site. We don't know if they're certifiable or not. One of them's in riverfront area, so that's a resource area. It's just, I don't know. I just, thinking of an excavator and vernal pool season. I mean, this is was there a take? Did you, are there salamanders out there? Are there, species that could have been migrating to those areas? I can't give you that information. I can't give you that answer. So, this is kind of the reason why I wanted to issue this violation, because it's just, it's an unfortunate incident that could have been mitigated. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that, moving forward, you just learn from these sort of things and it won't happen again. But, I understand that. But I just need to make it known that, the riverfront is a resource area and we need to be cognizant of the activities that are happening in that area.
I agree.
Okay.
So I don't know if the commission feels that, moving forward with this project, there needs to be a little bit more, overview. Whether there's need to have an outside consultant peer review this project, or if the applicant needs to provide some other sort of additional mitigation efforts for their, efforts. I mean, that's up to the commission to decide. I'm not going to make that call. But I just wanted to make it known that the riverfront area is a resource area and there are potential vernal pools near that area and also within the riverfront area that are protected. So it's just, it's a sensitive area. It's in an ACEC. So I just wanted to make that known to the commission.
Is there an existing sedimentation problem there now or not?
No, there's not. Everything was backfilled carefully. These soils on the site are very sandy soils. So anything that was backfilled was put back in the hole. And from my observation, from the Board of Health testing holes, which we were around, there was no signs of erosion from those pits. Again, the soils here are very sandy, mostly coarse to some fine sands, but nothing like silt or till that would erode.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission or audience members? John, this information gathered from these pits is required information for the filing, is it not?
It is, but they're supposed to notify us because we are the issuing authority when these activities are supposed to occur. And at the last meeting, they did not notify us that they would be doing this work during vernal pool season. And, that's kind of the ill effects of this kind of efforts happening. I can't say that they didn't take any sort of vernal pool species or they did not, because they haven't verified the vernal pools out there. So, there's a lot of things that should be in place for this before they start going out and driving an excavator around through an area that could be potentially vernal pool habitat. So I just think it's important that they see the big picture here, and especially since it's within an ACEC.
All right.
They haven't.
Go ahead, Dan.
They haven't started in with an excavator, have they? You're just using that as saying what could happen.
They've done the test pits.
The test pits were dug with an excavator. But so
you should then definitely you should be and give them a violation. And how?
I already have given them a violation.
Okay, all right.
They have an enforcement order. Is that correct?
They do not. I've given them a violation for alteration within the riverfront area, crossing it.
Absolutely.
All right. To resolve this then, or at least I don't know if resolution is the right term, but to as far as moving forward go. So Mark, you've been put on notice that you need to kind of get guidance with further work on this site from the conservation office. Is that something your firm can?
Yes, understood. Our team is well aware of this, and trust me, this will not happen again under my watch on this site. And I have talked to my colleagues about this already, just to be clear that we just need to be extra sensitive because of the areas of the site. Again, I'm not totally familiar with all the wetlands here. I was just called in to do the soil testing, and again, the access through the riverfront area path that was shown on that plan there was using an old cart path, and so we deliberately didn't want to drive anywhere we hadn't driven before because I didn't want to disturb vegetation. So again, I will talk. I've talked to our team about it. This will not happen again. I'm going to make sure that everybody knows again tomorrow in an email that just to remind people about that. Any activity besides foot traffic for surveying what the commission wants requires notice. And if we can give notice for anything, we should give the commission notice just so that way they're more aware.
Thank you.
Okay. Will that help, John?
Yeah, that will help. I mean, obviously, I think with some of the things that we've requested to them is to confirm the presence of vernal pool species on the property. So, that's something that they're probably working on to provide the commission. And, if there's any sort of, natural heritage listed species here, then, we need to be very extra sensitive of that as well.
Okay. I talked to my biologist, John.
All right, so if there's
So
no.
I think they've requested a continuance as well after the
Yeah.
violation.
Yes.
All right, so if there's no further discussion, we can proceed with a motion for continuation of this hearing, which is file number 250-1124 until the
So moved.
24th of April. And we have
So
a
moved.
motion by Dan and seconded by Ron. So roll call vote beginning with Mark and Ron.
Aye.
And Dan?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So this hearing is continued until April 24th.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mark.
You
Thank
bet.
you, Mitch.
So our next item on the agenda is an extension for file number 250-1024, which is the I guess some maintenance work on the transmission line.
Yeah,
And
I've
think-
looked at the permit application, and the reason why they have requested an extension is because of COVID. So because of funding to support the project. So they're looking for a 3-year extension to facilitate, I guess, most of the restoration work. I guess the utility work was done, but they're looking for additional funding to finish up the restoration work.
Yeah, this was before us fairly recently, within the year. Is that correct?
This one was in front of us, I believe, in 2020. So 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess time flies because I remember all these discussions and I noted that they have some equipment out there and I guess they're completing the actual work now. Is that right?
Yeah, their permit expires. I think it's July or August. I don't know. Allison, you're here, right?
Hi everyone. This is Allison Milliman from BSC Group. Thank you for considering this request for extension. Yeah, for the most part, the work is substantially complete. They've completed the overhead work and the structure installations associated with the replacement project. Unfortunately, because a lot of the work was completed late last season, we have not achieved that vegetation growth. So I think 3 years is super conservative because I'm anticipating this year, if we have good weather, no drought, we should get the vegetation to pop. Also, John, our replication area, and I had been coordinating with Jen prior to your position in Norton. Our replication area has achieved the performance standards. So that aspect of the project is complete. Really, at this point in time, we're just want to make sure that everything's stable and that the vegetation grows back and give the contractor the time to go out and remove the sediment and erosion controls that are currently installed in your town.
Great.
All right. So I think an extension sounds pretty reasonable. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ron and seconded by Dan for extension of file number 250-1024 for 3 years. Roll call vote beginning with Mark and Ron.
Aye.
So Mark, I didn't hear anything, but
Aye.
okay, there we go. And Dan is an aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
You bet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our next item on the agenda is a order of conditions for the Amazon parking area at 0 South Washington Street. I didn't find anything that I would change in it. Anybody else have any comments on the draft order? We have the sound of silence, so I'm going to take that as potentially people are okay with the draft and we can consider a motion to accept the draft as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Ron and a second by Dan to accept the draft order of conditions for file number 250-1119, 0 South Washington Street, beginning with a roll call vote, starting with Ron and Dan.
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. And I think our last item of business, maybe not our last, but is draft minutes for March 27th. And I heard word about punctuation.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I will send in, if it's acceptable to the commission, I will send in one with about 12 to 20 changes in punctuation, which.
Well, I will let the board know that with Megan's, I guess, hiatus of a departure, Dan Pearson has elected himself to be the minute taker and drafter. So he will be able to affix and change his own punctuation for us for the next over 3 months. Is that right, Dan?
Well, I think Dan froze in the middle of that, so you're probably not going to get an answer.
I didn't say no then.
I think, I don't know if he can hear us now because, but at any rate, yes, I think that will happen. So, I mean, acknowledging that there will be some punctuation modification on this, I think the substance of the text is acceptable, and we can consider a motion, although I don't know if we have, so we have to have all 4 votes?
You need all 4 votes of members that were there. So yeah, you need Dan.
We need Dan. So I don't know if Dan's going to be able to come back to life.
Well,
So-
if not, then we can table them to the next meeting.
Yeah. All right. That's fine. And maybe if he comes back to life, we can come back to that issue. And then our next item is the old business, new business. Any questions, comments, additions, declarations?
I've got really nothing. Megan, like I said, Megan's out for 3 months, so I'm just going to be somewhat busy trying to do both jobs administratively and making sure I can make sure everybody stays in line with the Wetlands Protection Act. Oh, and also we have begun trail improvements to Edith Reed. So
Okay.
that is underway. If anyone feels like they want to take a gander out to Edith Reed and walk along the Blue Trail, it's to the rear of the property. Actually, I can actually show you a map, which is kind of cool. So give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up.
Well, he's doing that. I'm sorry, I was just the phone cut me out of my.
I thought
computer.
you went out, you went into orbit, and I was wondering how far out you got, if you got beyond the space station or not. But but we're going to go back to the minutes as soon as we're done with this item.
Yes, just give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see this map here that I have?
We can.
All right, excellent. So this is the newest trail map that I have generated for our Edith Reed using a GIS program. And it shows the Edith Reed Trail as it currently is. It shows the yellow trail, which goes onto the YMCA's property, and then the blue trail, which then goes south of that. And if you go down to about here, you'll notice that closer to the Y's property, you'll notice that we have created a new subset trail that kind of diverts itself away from a flooded section of a existing trail. So we've created a boardwalk spanning a wetland system, and it is raised, and we just need to add a step to it, and it should be finished. So if anyone feels that they want to take a venture out to look at this area, it is been assisted from the Norton High School students, along with Pops Cuddington, who's a teacher over there, along with LPS, Land Preservation Society members, and also volunteers of the Scouts. So it's been a venture that we've been kind of trying to instill here, and hopefully provide a little bit more continuity and create a little bit more section to trail in the near future. So that is kind of what we're up to as of right now. But, you know, we're just hoping that that kind of can grow, and we can kind of have some sort of additional trail connections in the future.
Now, John, will you be calling the new trails the Orange Line or the Silver Line, or
this is
anything
not
like that?
No, we don't plan on doing that.
All right. Okay.
So that's all I have for updates.
All right. And we can go back to the minutes of March 27th. And while you were gone on your trip, Dan, we discussed that you would be changing the punctuation as you saw fit.
Yep.
And but there's no substantive text concerns.
Actually, there is. Sorry, Julian. There is one thing, and that is there is a contractor, or perhaps a foreman mentioned, and his name is Al. It would be nice to, but I can ask John if he knows the last name for Al, who was mentioned in the minutes.
Andronius. Andrinus, I think I can't pronounce his last name, but I have his information.
Okay.
All right. So maybe we can insert that. But other than that, we can consider a motion to accept the minutes of March 27th as amended.
I will, maybe someone else should make the motion.
So moved.
All right. Motion made by Mark and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Ron. So roll call vote starting with Ron and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. And Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. And Dan will carry out the modifications. So if we have nothing else, we can consider a motion to close.
So before you guys close too, I wanted to let you know that Lisa Carrozza was a member of the Open Space Committee. So we're covered for that aspect from a member of the commission. I've reached out to a couple folks for the Open Space Committee. We have some potential people in the wing. So I'm looking forward to reopening that board, because our open space management plan is up for renewal come 2024. So I need to have a active board of at least 5 members in that committee to be able to facilitate that. That way, for instance, we can get grants and funding from the state to support projects here in town, because if we don't have a plan in place, we can't get that sort of funding and support from the state. So that's the reason why I'm trying to bring this board back into fruition. It's one less thing that the commission basically has to worry about, but at least we'll have a representative, Lisa Carrozza from the board will be there. So I just wanted to give the commission that kind of information to, just have in their back pocket.
So you still need 1 or 2 more people, is that it?
So
I have 5.
Yeah.
Or
so I have
5 with Lisa.
Yeah. I have a couple people that basically I'd like to sit down with all of them and talk about kind of what the initiatives and roles and responsibilities of the committee are But I'm planning on having kind of an informal meeting with all of them before they actually, get voted in through the town. So that's kind of the thing that I would like. That way they can kind of greet each other too at the same time in person.
All right.
So I just wanted to give the commission that kind of information.
I have another question, which I would imagine could wait, but perhaps I don't know if I'm the only commission member who doesn't know. What is the Title V was mentioned at the last meeting. Is there a longer, is there a longer name for that? Where can I find it on the internet if I want to go and
just type in, you can Google search Title V Board of Health requirements, and that should kind of give you an idea as to what it stands for. And I can't tell you exactly verbatim what it says.
Okay. All right. I just
wanted
to know because, it was in the minutes without any other qualifications. So
yeah, it comes up frequently now because the new Title V regulations require that any house that is sold has to have their septic system evaluated as to whether it's meets Title V requirements, and often an upgrade is required. And so that's why we have many projects that are before us because of Title V requirements, namely septic system repairs. So.
Okay.
And that of course relates to us because there's so many wetlands in Norton. You can't really turn around without being next to a wetland. And any progress on possibly finding another member?
I've been reaching out to people. It's not the easiest thing right now. I might have to talk to the town about writing candidates at this point.
Have you tried Wheaton College?
Well,
I have reached out to some folks, but I haven't heard back. So Dan, if you have any contacts, just let them know.
Just barely. And I don't think I know any of the scientists in Norton, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, you don't have to be a scientist. You just have to.
That's true. That's true. I'm certainly no scientist, so.
Yeah, but you can learn the law as it goes. All right. Well, I think we're all set then for adjournment.
All right. I hope everyone had a great Easter, and I will see you guys all in 2 weeks.
Please wish Megan our best if you're going to talk to her.
Yeah, she said she's going to text me as soon as she can, whether that's tomorrow or 2 days or 3 days from now. But I'll definitely let the commission know of the status, and hopefully the new Harrop that's coming into the world will be smiling, right?
All right.
All right. Take care, everyone.
You bet.
All right.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye
care,
now.
Don. All right, bye.